It's Monday morning, the start of November, just under 2 weeks to go until the first of these climate sessions. And last night I had the joy of bringing together on a call our three main guests for this series: Alastair McIntosh, Vanessa Andreotti, and Martin Shaw, who'll be kicking things off with us on Sunday, the 15th of November. I was telling them a bit about why we're doing this, where we're headed over this time together, and I thought I'd share some of that with you. The phrase that keeps coming back to me in the preparation for this series is the dark matter of climate change. And on the one hand, physics talks about how much of the universe is made up of this thing they call dark matter that can only be observed indirectly through its effects on things we are able to see and measure with our instruments. And I have a sense that the same is true for what we're talking about when we talk about climate change, that only part of it can be seen and measured and put into charts and processed into the kind of careful, diligent scientific research that goes into an IPCC report. That if we treat that part of it as the whole story, then we're not getting to grips with what's at stake here. If you want an example, you can ask, are we in this mess because of a piece of bad luck with the atmospheric chemistry of our home planet? That it couldn't absorb all of the emissions we started throwing up with the Industrial Revolution? Or does this result from a way of approaching and treating the world which would have brought us to such a pass, even if the atmosphere had been more accommodating of all of the carbon dioxide and the rest of it that we've been spewing out? I think that's an important question. And it's not that science has nothing to contribute to the conversation it invites us to. It's just that it needs to be in dialogue with other voices and other ways of knowing. So that's one side of why I wanted to make this invitation, to take responsibility for bringing together the voices that can speak for the dark matter of climate change, as well as the parts of it that we can measure and put on a chart and talk about in quantitative terms. But there's another sense in which this phrase has been sitting with me over the last year or two as this new wave of climate awareness and activism has risen, and we've watched it kind of roll through and maybe get partly interrupted by the pandemic, but it feels like there's still a lot of energy in it. And that is this sense that many, many people are now having an encounter with the dark knowledge of climate change, with what we know and what we have grounds to fear about the depth of the mess we're in, that is best described as initiatory. People are being pulled across a threshold into a liminal experience, an experience in which who you thought you were begins to dissolve and fall apart. What we thought our societies were, where we thought everything was headed. I speak to a lot of people for whom this last 2 years has contained a moment or a series of moments in which they've been pulled across that threshold into this space of unraveling. And, key figures within this moment of climate awareness have often been people who are modeling what it's like to be pulled across that threshold, what it's like to be broken by the encounter with this dark knowledge. But what I know from the people who have taught me about initiation and how practices of initiation have worked in different times and places is that it's not just about getting broken. It's also about having a space that is held well enough that there is a chance, never a guarantee, of coming through that, of mending, not going back to who you were or who you thought you were before, but coming out of it in such a condition that you can be in service to something beyond yourself, to something that you hadn't seen or understood before you were pulled into that process. And so the question that I've been sitting with is, how is the space to be held? What can we learn from? Who can we learn from? Where are the stories and the practices that we might need in order that this might be an initiation, a transformation that has some hope of finding paths onward into the unknown world that lies ahead, beyond the unraveling of the world as we knew it. And if I could choose 3 people from the wide world, or at least 3 people whose work I have touched up against over the last 20 years, who I could bring together as people who have good things to offer into such a conversation, then it would be Vanessa and Alastair and Martin. They're 3 dear friends, wonderful human beings, and I feel very confident in inviting you to spend time with them. And if you want, then you can just show up for the 4 evenings in which we will be gathered together on Zoom for these Sunday sessions. But there is also the invitation to be part of something that's ongoing through the weeks in between times, where we'll be holding a space of discussion online, where each of you will be invited, if you want to be part of a reading and discussion group with a smaller group of other people who are taking part in this series, so that we have kin to go through this time together with. It's a time of year when we're headed into the darkness at this side of the planet. It's certainly dark territory to be headed into here, but we're in good hands. And I'm looking forward to sharing the journey with you. So do join us. Starts on the 15th of November, but this week we're going to be starting to invite people into the online space and starting to set up the reading and discussion groups. So join us when you can.